Hyperdrive Hockey is brought to you by the Game Over Network. Make sure to follow us on YouTube at Game Over Network and catch Hyperdrive Hockey in audio format on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other good streaming platform. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Hyperdrive Hockey on the Game Over Network. My name is Max Vanout, along with me today, Daphne Malbeuf. Daph, how are we doing today?
Oh, it's a beautiful sunny Friday here in Montreal, Max, so couldn't be happier. And I feel like people who have been happier are the Oilers fans.
I hope so. It took overtime to beat the Philadelphia Flyers. A more convincing win against the poor Nashville Predators. Nashville, Colorado, not back on track. The Oilers do look back on track. The Montreal Canadiens look more and more like the Montreal Canadiens from last year. We have a beautiful episode for you today. We will talk about all the Canadian teams, of course. Maybe a little less emphasis on the Winnipeg Jets today, as they have not played a game since the last episode. But you know what is happening with the Jets today? It's Mr. Kevin Laramie, our producer, wearing his beautiful Winnipeg Jets hat. Old school Winnipeg Jets. I approve, Kevin, this outfit. 10 out of 10 for me.
I bought it actually like the week after it was announced that the Jets would be coming back to Winnipeg.
Really?
This just popped up in the store. It's like a new version of it. I was like, I'm going to buy it because who knows? They're probably going to change the logo. And they did. And that was the first mistake they did when they went back to Winnipeg.
I agree. We also have a Jets fan who agreed. T-Lil and Kalkwi. I do not know how to pronounce your YouTube name. Shout out to people who still have random internet names. That is beautiful. He says that he agrees with the take on the logo. For those who might have missed last episode, I went on a little rant about how I'm not a fan of the Jets branding and to bring back what Kevin is wearing right now. He also says that he would really like to see the Jets and the Boston Bruins playing each other in Boston. I would enjoy a series, a best of 7 series between those two teams. It would be old school hockey right there.
Oh, Max, I feel like it's good, strong, harsh hockey. Ooh, yeah, I would be there for it.
Old-time hockey, probably a lot of injuries, a lot of hatred. Well, basically what we've had between the Panthers and the Boston Bruins this past 6 months, I guess. The series, the 2 games to start this season, that was beautiful. That was really, really beautiful.
Do you still enjoy it? Like, I feel like people are more there now for more slick, clean hockey, just like more technical, tactical. But I feel like, I have to say the big, harsh, old way. I still like it. I would lie if I said I didn't. So
I would be a hypocrite if I said I didn't enjoy it, because I've always been more of a finesse man. You know, my favorite superhero is Spider-Man. It's not the Incredible Hulk. My favorite football players, mostly, except for the Gronk. That is actually my biggest contradiction. My favorite player all time is the Gronk, but usually I'm a Odell Beckham type of guy. I enjoy, shifty players who have a lot of dangling. Same thing in hockey. My all-time favorite player, other than goaltenders, is Sergei Fedorov. My all-time favorite Habs are Alex Kovalev, PK Subban. Right now in the league, I'm a big Connor McDavid guy, but we try and teach young boys nowadays, to not necessarily not be scared to talk about mental health, but also injuries. But I'm still the type of guy who plays on an injury. So old habit, die hard.
Yeah, it's a whole culture there. It's a whole culture there.
Yeah, I was raised by the old standard. Maybe a lot of you have seen Remember the Titans. There is this legendary quote: "Are you injured or are you hurt?" And the player goes, "What's the difference?" Yeah, I'm that type of guy. There is a difference between being hurt. You can play when you're hurt. You don't play when you're injured. But when you're hurt, you play when you're hurt. Of course, hockey players play when they're hurt. They play when they are injured. And that is part of the game. That is part of why we love the game. One of the reasons we love the game this week is Sidney Crosby and Evgeni Malkin. And before we go all across Canada to talk about all the Canadian teams, but also PWHL this week, who released their schedule, we need to talk about Sidney Crosby, Evgeni Malkin, both reaching individual milestones in the same game, assisting one another. 1.6K points for Sidney Crosby, 1,600 points, and 500 goals for Evgeni Malkin. That was beautiful to see. I don't know if you saw people at home, the interview, the two of them together on the broadcast after the game. It was amazing. I think that there is an argument to say this is the best duo of all time. The longevity, the quality, both are Hart Trophy winners, both are Conn Smythe Trophy winners. Absolute legends, absolutely amazing that they are still together this deep in their career. And honestly, they have a very strong argument for the best duo of all time in hockey.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, I will say that these are two good leaders. And this is what I like about this duo is like they've shown up together for the past 20 years. 20 years and again play harder. Like every year there was like a question mark on how they can perform like at their age and everything, and they've proved everything and everyone wrong, and just like by showing up and be the best versions of themselves, but not only for them but for this team. And this is what I really like about them, and it's really emotional to see them at this point of their career. My first fantasy hockey was 2005 with Sidney Crosby. I had the first pick. So he was my first guy ever drafted in my fantasy hockey. And I couldn't, like, we're young, so I couldn't have imagined to see a whole like career of a player that I've really admired from the beginning. But these are two of those who I really admired. And just looking back at my memories, my souvenirs, personal souvenirs, I've just called back on my high school agendas. And I have like I would just like go through the newspaper and just like cut off some hockey guys that I really liked and it really enjoyed to see. And there just like both of them. I wish I had like I need to find a photo, but like like they've been on my high school agendas every year of those 5 years because I really love them. And looking back at who is maybe the next duo, like the greatest duo among like hockey history, it's hard to find another duo that could like compete with them. I would say Brian Trottier and Mike Bossy.
Yeah,
but they haven't played that long because Bossy got injured, unfortunately.
Exactly. They didn't have the longevity. Like, Yari Curry and Wayne Gretzky is another one, also that they played together after that with, of course, the LA Kings. But it's the longevity. You said it. For Sid, it's year 20s, or for Gino, it's year 19, even though he's older. He came into the NHL a year later. He stayed in Russia a bit longer. The combination of quality and longevity is what stands them apart, because that is always a question. You know, some players are, in a way, strictly, you know, not that they get part of the legend, but, you know, their career is made on longevity. Like, to me, Patrick Marleau is this. I mean, no disrespect to Patrick Marleau. He was a very good player for a very long time. Patrick Marleau was never in conversations for individual hardware. He was, you know, he was a perennial, very good player. These guys are Hall of Famers, first ballot Hall of Famers. And it's crazy to me to see Gino starting the season so strong. He has 11 points already. Last year, you know, so the past few years, especially last year, Gino now really is a second-line center. Whereas for his whole career, there was an argument he was the second best center in the NHL, but he was with Sid. It's absolutely crazy.
And he never made it look like he was in the shadow of the big star. No. He was the Scottie Pippen to Michael Jordan. He played along even if he was as you said, one of the best hockey players out there. He never made it look like he was pissed about it, to be like
Yeah,
in kind of the shadow of Sidney
yeah.
Crosby.
You know what? The Pippen to Jordan analogy is great. I feel like he's a bit more strictly because of The Last Dance. If you remember The Last Dance, which Scottie Pippen hated, by the way, hated. Um, in the years MJ retired, so Scottie Pippen stepped up but couldn't quite reach that level. And what
Mm.
happened when Sid got injured mid career? He took over. He won the Hart Trophy. He won the first Conn Smythe Trophy. So yeah, completely amazing. I can't believe among great duos we didn't name the other dynamic duo of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux, of course,
Oops.
which is another amazing duo.
Imagine having that in your franchise history. Like
You know what's
those
amazing?
two big duos.
I was thinking about doing something on NHL 25, creating the best franchises of all time for each team.
Ooh.
And of course, because of the history, you think Habs probably would have the best franchise of all time. But strictly on the power of these four, the Pittsburgh Penguins have quite an argument. Then, of course, the Edmonton Oilers, you almost just take the Dynasty Oilers and add McDavid and Leon. There are
It
some
would be
teams that have quite a,
Yeah, it would be monstrous. Like the Oilers with Gretzky and McDavid and Leon.
imagine, completely imagine. Of course, this, looking back on Sidney Crosby's and Evgeni Malkin's career brings a lot of interesting talking points, but among which now Sidney Crosby already was 10th all time. Unless disaster strikes him this year and he gets injured, we hope not. He's going to end the year number 9 all time. And where will he get is one of the amazing questions for the next few years. Of course, we are all watching Alexander Ovechkin chase Wayne Gretzky's goal record, but where will Sidney Crosby end on the all-time list in points will be amazing. He has signed for 2 more years, so now he has almost 3 full years. I mean, there are a few games played this one. And I made a quick calculus this week, Daph, and on this contract alone,
Yeah.
I think he gets top 5. I think he gets top 5 unless I made a quick math with 80%. If he plays only 80% of the games for the next 3 years, with an average point of 1.1 points per game, which is still below what he has done these past 5 years, Sidney Crosby slowing down at a very, very, very slow pace. He's still over a point per game. He has had over a point per game in every of his NHL seasons so far. I think he ends this contract top 5. And then if Sidney Crosby decides to go and play in his 40s, which I think he can, honestly, top 3 all time is something that he can reach, I think. And it only leaves us wondering what would have happened if he had not lost those 2.5 years in his prime.
Yeah, because when you're looking back, you're like, he's kind of, and that was, I think, an article made on Daily Faceoff about that, kind of like the lost generation of
Yeah.
players who had
Yeah.
been like in lockouts and with the COVID season. So they've not been like as quiet as they should have been there. But yeah, Crosby, do you think he can make top 5? Because I mean, it's 1,798
In points, he's reaching top 5 on this contract. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. Yeah, the end. Yeah, because he's had 94 points last season, 93, 84, but out of 69 in 2021 and 22, out of 69 games. Yeah, that could be achievable.
To me, like the big question is, I think if you'd ask 90% of hockey fans, the Mount Rushmore of hockey players all time has Wayne Gretzky on it, Mario Lemieux on it, and either or both Gordie Howe and Bobby Orr. So these are kind of the 4 mainstay mostly.
Mm-hmm.
I think Sidney Crosby at the end of his career will be on most players' Mount Rushmore. I can already say he will be on mine.
Who will he replace on your Mount Rushmore?
At the moment, mine would be. Oh, that's tough. most people don't put goalies on separate Mount Rushmore. I guess I would do the same too because the position's so different. Um, I mean, no disrespect, but I think on mine he would replace probably Gordie Howe.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
Yeah, that's
to
my
me,
pick.
we have reached a point in Sidney Crosby's career where he's kind of underrated. His career is kind of underrated, and the guy filled every freaking box that were placed on his shoulder, and he was the most hyped prospect. Of course, we both are from the province of Quebec. I back when Sidney Crosby was in junior hockey in the queue for the Rimouski Océanique, I lived in Drummondville, which has a Q team, the Voltigeurs. And so I went to see Sidney Crosby when he was playing in the queue. It was something at the time I was early high school, so I was 12 or 13 years old. It was something never seen. The place was it was overflowing. There were people standing in those games. It was absolutely crazy. I think the younger generation do not understand the hype that was surrounding Sidney Crosby back then.
Yeah.
I can be wrong. I feel like, and it's just, sometimes our perspective, because I was 13 years old when Sidney Crosby happened. I was, of course, an adult when both McDavid and Connor Bedard happened. To me, the hype surrounding Sidney Crosby, maybe because I was closer. And if you are from Ontario, if you are from Western Canada, feel free to tell me in the comment. Maybe I am wrong on this. Maybe you lived the same thing with McJesus and Connor Bedard. But what Sidney Crosby brought to the QM JHL, tough to say top of my head like this what LHGMQ is in English. It was completely amazing. He has filled every box and more so. He did it so quickly, winning the Stanley Cup in his fourth year. Yeah, to me, it's almost a perfect career for Sidney Crosby, honestly.
Like rewarding like Gordie Howe on your Mount Rushmore. Like, do you feel like we are too attached maybe to the old players that we like that had been successful? Because for me, seeing Crosby doing that in the years and in the era that he has played, for me, there's like, and I don't want to, like, Gordie Howe was amazing, but I feel that sometimes we have a hard time letting go of like the past player that had been successful. For me, that Sidney Crosby has been able to do that in the era that he's played is like way more impressive.
Yeah, it's an interesting subject because obviously we both have not seen Gordie Howe. I have barely seen Wayne Gretzky. I saw the end of Wayne Gretzky's career. To me, Wayne
Yeah.
Gretzky's a New York Ranger. I mean, tells you. I am grateful that Mario Lemieux came back because I can fully grasp how legendary the man is. Mario Lemieux, no injury, no cancer, rivals Wayne Gretzky. There is a great debate but it didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
and obviously, I have not seen Bobby or either. I think, the older I get, the more I'm starting to understand why older sports fans have a hard time letting go. I'm going to have a hard time letting go of saying that Ovi and Sid are amongst the greatest, whatever happens, because they are attached to so many memories. They are the first generation of players that I have fully grasped their career from start to finish, because even the players that were drafted late 90s, early 2000s, I saw them going through their career, but I was not as fully developed to fully maybe appreciate it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is. It will be completely tough. It will be completely tough. And yeah, amazing career for both Gino and Sid. And to me, I can't wait to see this year, next year. I hope they have it in them to bring the Penguins to the playoffs. I am not a Penguins fan at all. I am not a Washington Capital fan at all. But I want to see Ovi and Sid in the playoff. I don't want to see them on bad teams that miss playoff. I want to see them push. I find myself cheering in a way for the Pittsburgh Penguins because I often say this, that I enjoy greatness. The older I grow, the less I am attached in any sport to teams in particular. And I find myself enjoying the greatness. When I was young, I was a Tom Brady fan in the NFL, so I hated Peyton Manning. And looking back, I appreciate Peyton Manning so much. I appreciate a human being, number one, a hilarious man, a successful man, and what seems to be an amazing man. I don't know him. I don't know if if he roughens up baby cats in his basement. I hope not. But all jokes aside, I find myself, appreciating what I lived with
Yeah.
Brady versus Manning for all these years. And I want to see both Sidney. That's why I want Alex Ovechkin to break the record so much, because it would be amazing to live this, to go through this, especially if you are Daph and I generation. We're both millennials. We're both, I was going to say we're both, are you in your 30s now? I'm in my 30s. I think you're in your 30s too. You're not that much
Yeah,
younger.
I just turned
Okay.
30.
Beautiful. So we're in our 30s. And so it's something that we never thought we were going to see.
Yeah.
Offensive records being broken in the NHL.
Yeah.
We lived in the golden era of goaltenders and defense. So I want to see that. And I want to see Sid and Gino this year bring the Penguins to the playoffs. And that's why I'm enjoying so much Gino's start to the season, particularly.
Yeah, me too. It's just like this scenario, right? And you said it. Like, I never thought that would be possible. I'm kind of cheering. Like, I need to see Ovi getting that milestone. I need to see him getting that overreached.
I so agree with the way you phrased it. I need to see it. I agree
Yeah.
so much. I don't want it. I need it.
I'm eager for it.
Can you imagine like what it's gonna be next year? Like when I hope when he's getting close, within what, 4 goals maybe? Like we're gonna start going like probably we're gonna start seeing Wayne Gretzky at the games every night because he said he wants to be there, which is really graceful from him. It's amazing.
The hype's going to be there.
Yeah, the Washington Capitals are probably going to be on primetime television most of those games. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Congratulations to Sidney Crosby on the milestone. Congratulations to Evgeni Malkin. Gino too. Like there is a big question to be asked. Like, would Gino's career have been bigger or smaller if he had not been on the Penguins? Because I feel like in a way maybe he would have been more appreciated. Because I honestly believe he's the second best centerman of his generation at his prime. But also maybe, at least on the team aspects of things, from a team perspective, maybe he doesn't reach the same highs. So anyways, the two seems to have an amazing relationship. Evgeny Malkin seems to be completely comfortable in the role that he's had. So it's amazing, completely amazing.
And, like it benefits a player, just an athlete, to be on a good team that is competing years and years over and over again. Like, yeah. I wonder. That's a good question. But let's not imagine that. Let's just appreciate what we had for the past 19th season. It makes me feel old, even if I'm not old.
Such a beautiful sentiment you shared with us there. Let's appreciate it. And with that story out of the way, now it's time to come back across the Great White North. Let's go coast to coast across Canada. A lot of things happening regarding the NHL teams, but first, Daph, let's talk about the PWHL, who announced their schedule for the 2024-2025 season. The league is going from 24 games to 30, which is amazing. It's part of the growth. What I love to see this year is that both Canadian teams, Montreal, the Victoire, and Toronto, the Scepters, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. Scepters? The C is silent. Okay. So see, that's amazing. So Montreal chose a name that is tough to pronounce for Anglos, and Toronto chose a name that is tough to pronounce for us Frenchies. That's beautiful. So both Montreal and Toronto, let's call it like this, are upgrading venues. Montreal will play 13 of its 15 home game at Place Belle. For those who don't know, Place Belle, not Bell Center, is the Laval Rocket arena, and basically the Scepters are doing the same thing. They're moving to Coca-Cola Coliseum, which is home of the Marlies. Amazing. I hope the hype stays. I hope the stand will be filled night in, night out. I can't wait. I went to a few, I was going to say Victoire, but they were not named at that moment. I went to a few Montreal's game last year, and it's all about growth now for the league.
Yeah, I think they have proven that they can fill these arenas night and night over and over again. And like we had a good hype here in Toronto and Montreal, Ottawa, Boston, but there are some like for me, the questions are more for the Minnesota and the New York teams. Like, are they
Yeah.
gonna be able to? Because like it was super hard for New York. They changed when like where they were playing like 3 times last season, and it wasn't that close. Like people who went for a game couldn't really go for another game like in another venue. So this is for me like the great question mark, but it's so great to see that after year one we are already here and we are making the hype going. There are going to be camps that are starting at the beginning of November that are going to be some match presented between Montreal and Toronto. And I'm just excited. Like people also were not really sure about the names and the brands, but this is for another debate.
I was trying to see while you were talking if Ottawa were upgrading venue too. I do not have the information in front of me. I think Ottawa is staying in the same arena.
No, they're
Or
staying
maybe
in the
two.
same
Okay.
arena.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the big
Yeah.
markets now that are leading the league is really Toronto and Montreal, which is not really surprising.
Oh, it's absolutely not, and it's cool. It's awesome. Really glad to see. Personally, so I went to a game in Verdun last year, which was the
Yeah.
original home arena of Montreal, and one at Place Belle in the playoff. Both were electrifying. So amazing.
Yeah, and some
Amazing to
people
see.
were like kind of sad to see the Montreal team leaving Verdun because it's for people who haven't like never been there. It's a really like old stylish arena. So
Yeah.
it
That they
had,
renovated, huh? They
yeah,
brought back the because sorry to interrupt you, but they had made a horrible front over the original one. They took it down to bring back the original cachet of the
yeah.
place. Amazing. Sorry, I'll let you go.
So yeah, so no, but that is why people are attached to this place. I feel like it's really cozy. It's
Yeah.
small, but it's cozy. It's old. It's oldish, but it's nice. So it's really different that to be at the Place Belle, but for the growth of the league, you needed to make that move.
Yeah. To give you an idea, Auditorium de Verdun had a legendary Foo Fighters concert in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think it was early 2000s, to the point where a year ago, when the Foo Fighters came to Montreal, the Foo Fighters who obviously fill easily Bell Center, even maybe 2 nights in a row, Dave Grohl went, no, I'm going back to Verdun. So they played another show in Verdun last year. The freaking Foo Fighters, one of the biggest rock band in the world.
Yeah,
I
and
understand what you. Yeah, I understand
there's
what
a
you mean.
there's a basketball team also, the Montreal Alliance, who plays there, and just like
Yeah,
people who went to a game, like they know it's electrifying. It's just like another atmosphere. It's completely
yeah.
different. But for me, it's just also saying that we are great, and we deserve to play in those nice venues. Like if you want to sell your league, if you want to sell your product, don't underestimate yourself. So for me, it's another step forward to say like we are good and our product is good, and we're going to show you by just moving forward and having more people looking at it.
That's well
It's
said. That's well said. To make another musical analogy, it's like I've seen Blink 182, my favorite band, twice at Bell Center, and every time I'm like, I wish I was just 5 years older and that I could have seen them in a small venue. So I'm going to be able to say this about the PWHL. I'm going to be able to say that I was there in Verdun in the small arena, fully packed. But like you said, congrats to the league to have had such a bang from the start to allow those teams that had a great first season in their respective market to already go on to bigger arenas. Back to the NHL now. The Edmonton Oilers finally won. 2 wins in a row for McJesus and his gang. A W in OT against the Philadelphia Flyers. It was tough, but maybe now the train has started, because after that on Thursday night, a good win against the Nashville Predators, who still completely struggle. So yeah, I think the Oilers will be fine.
Do you know what I'm hearing, Max?
What are you hearing?
People from Edmonton breathing again.
A big
Okay?
sigh of relief.
I mean, and it was against like Philly, and it wasn't going that well in this game. It was a
No, it didn't.
comeback, but you're like, okay, you're looking at the calendar, looking at the Blackhawks games, the Flames games, we're like, okay, maybe we have it chill there. You're not. You're losing and badly. And now you're looking at the calendar and you're like, okay, Flyers are good. We can take the Flyers. Not a good start in this game, but a comeback. And now the Predators, which at the beginning of the calendar were like, oh, it's going to be a tough one. Now you're like, oh, we need to capitalize on this one. And they did. I wonder what was the turning point in the game against the Flyers. Did it seems like Sean Couturier running into Stuart Skinner and just the fights that happened right after that maybe was like kind of a turning point for them? Because we talked about emotions, that they were lacking emotion, and I feel like it just injected some that's been desperately needed.
For the reason that you've mentioned, this is a great point. This is a great point. It's as if the Oilers needed something to get themselves into the season. So yeah, I'm still not like, I kind of had wished that they had come in Philadelphia and went like, I don't know, a 6-0 win to say like, hey, all good.
You're
But
not
you know what?
convinced.
Yeah, I'm still gonna wait and see. Stuart Skinner was a bit better. Calvin Pickard was not particularly better. I still have a lot of question regarding that D. A big 0 point for Zach Hyman, by the way, Mr. 50 goals. And you can't really say that it's because, I don't know, Jeff Skinner's taking his minutes or anything, because he's not. Like, so that there are still causes for concerns for the Oilers. But contrary to Nashville and Colorado, who we talked about in last episode, who are still on those losing streak, at least, you know that meme of, I think it's from, I don't remember which science show. I don't know if it's Mythbusters, where he plugs duct tape on a big leak. Like, at least we're there for Edmonton. We've plugged the leak with duct tape. Now we need to build on it.
Do you see the Avalanche making a move for the goaltenders?
Earlier than expected, you mean? Because if they don't, it's absolutely crazy. I was having a debate last night with a friend over Lane Hudson, and we're going to talk about the Habs in a second, over Lane Hudson's plus minus the past few games. Was talking about maybe he's no Kel McCarr at all, because like a lot of people, he has a problem with how much Lane Hudson was hyped, and I can agree with that. Like, comparing a player in college to the best player at the position in the world is always tricky. So I just jokingly send him Makar's plus minus, who is at -6 so far this year, just to say, hey, chill. But that's more because I'm not a fan of the plus minus. But anyways, but here's the thing. 765, the save percentage of Justus Heinonen. 802, Alexander Gorgiev. You're going to be in the minus with that goaltending. It's completely crazy.
Ooh, that doesn't look good at all.
I don't understand why the Avalanche didn't. I mean, I get it, they're in cap trouble and all, but how did it not improve in net this offseason? To me, like, you can't be comfortable with those goalies. And right now we are in New Jersey Devils territory from last year. Last year, the New Jersey Devils, yes, there were the injuries, but with good goaltending, the Devils are fighting for a spot until the very end and maybe getting in despite the injuries. We're there right now for Colorado.
And like, kind of like similar around those teams, Predators, Avalanche, and Oilers, I feel like good players, the stars players, need to hold them, like we need to hold them accountable.
Of course.
Where are they?
Of course. That is well said. That is very, very well said. Speaking of good players, the Toronto Maple Leafs have them, and they completely smoked the Los Angeles Kings. I was watching that game on Wednesday night, and we were talking about how the Leafs were quietly just doing their things to start the season. And I kind of have the feeling that this could be the best Toronto Maple Leaf regular season of this era of player.
And I was wondering, Max, what the coming of Craig Berube like could have had, like, and what impact it could have had. And just in this win, okay, they are up 5-0 at the beginning of the third period. They are allowing 2 goals in less than 3 minutes. And Craig Berube, I mean, he's here to win. He was not amused at all. He called a timeout, not to give, like, maybe to give a chance to his team to just like regroup and reset, but he went out ranting about getting back to basics. And I'm not going to say what he said. You can Google just go see the video out there of him. He was not amused at all. He was not impressed at all with the performance of the Leafs at the beginning of this third period, and just went out, called a timeout. It's early in the season, and you're already doing this? Oh la la. Greg Berube changes a lot of things. Yeah. We don't see it because he's a simple coach. He asks simple things, but he asks simple things. Not being sloppy in the third period have like the Leafs has been for the past years, because sometimes they collapse in the third period when they have the lead. So he's there for it. He's like, not gonna give you any chill. It's not because it's 5-0 that I'm gonna give you chill. I expect better from this team.
The Toronto Maple Leafs could send a message this weekend. Well, the weekend and early next week, because they have a tough 2 games coming. Rangers on Saturday, then Lightning on Monday, both at home, with that being said. But right now, the Leafs' only loss was the robbing by Samuel Montembeault on opening night. Other than that, they have one big. They are +7 through 4 games, I'm sorry. And if you beat the Rangers on Saturday night, if you beat the Tampa Bay Lightning on Monday, and you're suddenly at a 5-1 start with impressive wins after impressive wins and beating some great contenders in New York and Tampa. Tampa on a Thursday night had a big win. The big dogs showed up. Nikita Kucherov with amazing performance. The Rangers with Artemi Panarin with at least 2 points in every single game so far this year. I think that on Tuesday could be a big Toronto episode, Daph. Could be a big Toronto episode where it's the first time that we talk longly about the Leafs.
Yeah, it could be like a meter match. Where are they at? Are they for real? I feel like they are. Yeah. But, and something that has been went successfully against the Kings was the power play. Finally clicked. Yeah. It was 0 for 11. Finally had a goal there. And ladies and gents, you've been waiting for it. The Matthews first goal of the season.
It happened.
On his 16th shot, it happened. It was there.
I knew it was coming. I might have put a little dollar on that happening that night. I mean, he was not going to go 4 games without a goal to start the season. Like, that's no rocket science.
Do you put a little dollar on the Leafs win against the Rangers?
No, absolutely not. I'm going to watch this game with a lot of interest, with absolutely no dollar on it. If you are like me and are a betting man, don't forget that it's just for fun, that you need to put the budget for yourself and all that. I'm just going to watch this carefree. Speaking of carefree, Montreal Canadiens right now have not looked good this week. The first line needs to be separated. Absolutely. Martin St. Louis looks like a man who knows it. I lauded him earlier on those episodes of this podcast, but clearly without Patrick Laine, we have the confirmation that the Habs do not have a top 6. They have a top 4. The top 4 is clearly Slavkovsky, Suzuki, Caulfield, and Kirby Dach. And so instead of having 3-on-1 line and Kirby Dach with, unfortunately, Alex Newhook and Yoel Armia, who are not ready for top 6 minutes, I kind of hope that Alex Newhook would be. He is not to start the season. And I'm not excusing Dach. He is not that good. to start this season, but I do believe that adding either Caulfield or Slavkovsky on his wing would help. And that is the big question for me. I can't wait. I'm 90% confident that the line will be separated for the next game. And now that is the question to me, because is it Suzuki Caulfield and Dak Slavkovsky, or is it Suzuki Slavkovsky and Dak Caulfield?
People were talking about patience at the beginning of the season. I don't feel like we need to be patient here.
I agree,
feel like
100%.
we need to do that right now, because the beginning of the season is important. You need to get your offense going. So what would your lines look like? That being said,
I know a lot of people want to see Dak Slavkovsky for many reasons. Number one, the two big guys playing together. That's one. Number two, there seemed to be chemistry last year before Kirby Dak really early his injury. And of course, Suzuki Caulfield has kind of been a thing since they've both been in Montreal. But I would keep Suzuki and Slavkovsky, and I would put Caulfield with Dak. And you know what? Let's give a little gift to Emil Heineman for a game or two. He's had a good start. He has a wicked shot. Let's put Heineman on the left of Suzuki and Slavkovsky. Let's put Caulfield with Dak. I would keep Yoel Armia there for puck battle along the board. And I'm not impressed with Alex Newhook. I would send a message to Alex Newhook. He is the one who would go down. And because Evans, Gallagher, Anderson might have been the best line so far this year, I keep them together. I am sorry, Alex Newhook, but you're going with Christian Dvorak and Oliver Kapanen. And those would be my lines. So Heineman with Suzuki and Slavkovsky, Caulfield with Dak and Armia, Anderson, Evans, Gallagher stays this way, and Newhook, Dvorak, Kapanen, the fourth line.
I agree with you. Newhook on the fourth line, it's a big statement.
You have to do statements now. It's statement season.
It's statement season, and
statement season is here.
Martin Saint-Louis demands greatness, so you have to give him. But the third line, do you feel like I agree with you. Like, I would keep them because the chemistry is going great. But what is Anderson doing on that line? I was watching just like Evans going around, like reaching for the puck. Gallagher is in front of the net doing Gallagher things. I don't know. Anderson.
Really? I kind of like Anderson start to the season.
For what?
I feel like the message has been clear. Look, forget your contract. Forget why you were brought here. You're at another stage of your career now. You're a third liner. He plays good on the PK. I feel like he is more consistent than he was last year. Less trying to be a 25 goal scorer and just focusing on energy and skating. So I kind of like his start to the season. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe because I didn't take maybe a closer look to him, but I felt he was shaky whenever he got the puck.
But he's never. That's the thing with Anderson. Like, if Anderson had a better hockey IQ, he would be. I'm not gonna say he would be one of the best players in the league, but damn, that combination of size, speed, and hockey IQ would be amazing.
Let me tell you, if he had a good hockey IQ, this line could have scored a few more goals.
Yeah, well, he would not be on that line if he had better hockey IQ. Brendan Gallagher start to the season is really interesting. Almost to the point where he would deserve a shot at the top six. But I don't know. I like that line. So far.
Yeah, me too. I would keep it that way.
Yeah, it's a case of it's not broken, so don't try and fix that one. Give a little candy to Heineman. Put him on the wing of Suzuki, and I like that. But anyways, of course, the big problem is still on D. The Habs are giving as many odd man rushes as my beer league team, which is way too much. My beer league team already gives too many odd man rushes for beer league hockey. So, I mean, how many times have we seen Montembeault and Primo in the game that he played having to face grade A chances on odd man rushes? And now Mike Madison could be out 30 minutes for Lane Hudson against the King because Madison left the game early. Yes, Lane Hudson has been in the minus for the past two games, but Oh, the man is good. The kid is good. The boy is good. Just called him a man. I mean, might be a man, but to me, he's a boy right now. But the kid is good. The kid is amazing with the pucks. We talked about it last episode. He has things to learn, but I kind of love the play on Adrian Kempe. When he like, I guess that was a body check for those of you who didn't see it, one on one, put the body in the way. Adrian Kempe basically climbed on him. That was hilarious to see. So yeah, I mean, right now, Lane Hudson and Caden Goulet are the best player on that Habs defense, but that Habs defense looks bad.
Quick quick stat, really interesting. Like with his 30 minutes of ice, he had the puck, Lane Hudson, he had the puck on his sticks for 4 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah.
That is like, this guy can control the puck, and I'm here for it. And just like a quick comparison, last season, only 4 players had more possession time in a single game. That was Quinn Hughes, Eric Carlson, Barzal, and McCarr. When you're like compare, or you just have stats comparison to those guys, I mean, your first year is going pretty good. I have a question though, and that's what I have asked my partner yesterday, which I watched the game with, is are they gonna crack the code going on in the season? Like now,
the other teams, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, that is the one thing I'm looking for. The more teams will do video on Lane Hudson, this is when I feel like right now he has, like, I don't know, will it be 10, 20, 30 games like of buffer that like is surprising. I made the comparison yesterday on another platform, which I said he's basically Lamar Jackson. So Lamar Jackson gets in the NFL, he's super freaky athletic. And so at first, of course, you have the tape from Louisville, but like he comes in and so the teams adapt, but Lamar adapted. And so he's still doing his thing. And he is so athletic that despite the teams now knowing what he's going to do, he can still keep on doing it, change a few things, and keep going. So that to me will be the thing for Lane Hudson. How will he adapt once teams kind of know his thing? Is he good enough that it won't change a thing? Because, like amazing players that, Kel McCarr, Connor McDavid, that's it. Like, it doesn't matter. You can do 1,000 hours of tapes. You're not going to stop those guys. So is he good enough for that, or will he have to adapt? It will be very interesting to see as the season goes.
And I'm telling you, I think he can, because he's very athletic, and also he has a great hockey IQ. I don't see him, like, he's going to struggle a little bit, but I'm not seeing him having like that much of a hard time just like trying to doing what he's a natural. Like, I mean, his puck possession, just like the way he sees the ice, I feel like he's going to be able to go through that.
Yeah, he's amazing. Completely amazing. You can now remove the Vancouver Canucks from the winless team list. The Canucks in a strong win against none other than the Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers, on Thursday night. All of this after starting a road trip in the East against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a 4-1 loss against the Tampa Bay Lightning, a great bounce-back game. So finally, that first W. But has anybody seen Elias Peterson? Where is Eli? And I love Elias Peterson. I don't want to bang on his head, but he still didn't have a point yesterday. And listen to this. He signed his contract on March 2nd. Since March 25th, he has played 28 games. He has 2 goals. None of them came at 5-on-5, by the way. They are power play goals. And only 12 points. We are talking about a more than $11 million man a year. Where is he?
Trying to find his mojo again. In 4 games, Max has been 6 shots on the net. I mean, and talking about a shaky player, it feels like he's maybe thinking too much. Like, I look at him and I'm just like, oh, he's struggling. Like, he's an instinctive player. And I haven't seen that on him since last season. His decision making, it's looking too slow, it's not that good. And you don't want to see that of a number one center and a guy who's supposed to be like a big point producer. He needs to find his mojo back again.
Yeah. He's a streaky player, always been. You talked about confidence, but right now, this ain't it. This ain't it at all. Hopefully, things get better for Elias Peterson, and it will be long gone in the rearview mirror when it's all said and done this year. But they need him right now. They need him right now. They don't have their number one goalie. They need Elias Peterson to do Elias Peterson thing. And quickly on the three other teams, the Flames, the Jets, and the Sens. The Flames have only played a game this week since last episode. They're at Seattle on Saturday, but they won again against the Chicago Blackhawks. The Flames are still hot. The Ottawa Senators have lost again on Thursday night. I'm not going to put that one on Anton Forsberg against the Devils. The Devils are a good team. But the good thing for the Ottawa Senators is that Tim Stutzle looks like he's back. 3-3 through 4 games, so that's 3 goals and 3 assists. Thursday night, I'm pretty sure his first game without a point of the season. If we just talked about Elias Peterson finding his mojo back, if Tim Stutzle is back to his form from 2 years ago, that will be a big win for the Ottawa Senators in their quest to make the playoff for the first time since 2017.
Yeah, and I think that what's going to make them a great team, they need to fine tune that. They have skill. It's undeniable. They have the ability to score. They just need to get rid of those little habits that they had. They need fine tuning. I feel that they're there right now, and it's good that they're there at the beginning of the season. It's just like in the last night's loss, it was too little, too late, and in the second period, they had a strong start, but they just started to unravel a little bit like the Montreal Canadiens. They need to have consistency over 3 periods, but I feel like it's fine tuning and getting Claude Giroux also maybe a little bit better back on track, because in the second period, I don't know if you saw, but they were on the power play and he just made a huge turnover that completed in a Devils goal. So yeah, they need fine tuning and they need Claude Giroux to find his mojo a little bit again.
There is a gap the size of the Grand Canyon in the Atlantic Division, and that gap is between the 4th and the 5th place. For 4-5 years now, the Florida Panthers, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Boston Bruins are in a category. And the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, the Buffalo Sabres, and the Detroit Red Wings are in another category. In the second category that I just mentioned, the Montreal Canadiens are the team that made the playoffs the most recently when they went on that run in 2021. Out of the 4 teams in that category to start the season, the Ottawa Senators are the one that right now I'm the most confident have found a little something and can make a push and get into the playoffs. As of right now, I prefer their play to Montreal, even though Montreal beat them last Saturday. I prefer it to Buffalo and Red Wings, who clearly, as of right now, seems to have taken a step back.
And the Sabres, we're not even talking about it.
Oh, poor Sabres. Poor Sabres. And the Winnipeg Jets have not played a game since last Tuesday, since last episode. They will play Friday night against the Sharks, so I can totally see them starting, honestly, 5-0 maybe, because after that it's Pittsburgh Sunday at home. So the Jets can make some noise to start the season. But yeah, nothing much new on the Jet side as they have not played since last episode.
Yeah, and the Flames, Max, the Flames.
Yeah, they're hot. We talked about it a bit earlier. They're playing Seattle on Saturday. The Flames are still hot. They won against the Blackhawks.
They're still hot. It's a weird start of the season.
It really is. It really is.
It's just week 2.
Let's get back now south of the border because there is another man that made a lot of money earlier this week. Let's go south of the border. One man, how did the Grinch say it? One man's trash is another man's potpourri? Not sure this was the right analogy. All this to say that Igor Shesterkin might not have liked Jake Oettinger's new contract. It seems to be the number for elite goalies, 8.25, because Jake Oettinger signed the exact same contract as Jeremy Swayman, 8 years, 8.25 millions contract. And why I'm saying that Igor Shesterkin might be the one looking at this and saying, damn it, is because of course, at this point, you probably know that according to Kevin Weeks, Igor Shesterkin said no to $88 million from the New York Rangers. So that's 8 times 11. And here's the thing. Each new goalie contract that gets signed, you wonder, well, how the heck is Shesty going to get even 11 now? Because a year ago, 7 years, 8.5 million a year. That's for Vezina winner in 2024, Connor Hellebuck, who again looks like a Vezina contender this year. 8 years, 7.74 for Yusei Saros. 8 years, 8.25 for Swayman. 4 years, 8.25 for Yolmark, and 8 years, 8.25 for Oettinger. There has been Carey Price, 10.5. There has been the Bob, 10. There has been Vasilevsky, 9.5. And since then, it's all under 9. I don't know. Good money for Oettinger. Bad news for Shesty in my book.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard one for Shesty there to make a point because Oettinger had an impressive record. When you see him through like 3 games, he has 3 wins, 1.63 goals against average, a save percentage of 948. And I mean, when you look at his record in the past season, he's been good. So, and it's kind of like around the statistic of Igor Shesterkin. So I don't know how he's going to make a plaidoyer for himself over here. He's asking for 12 millions. I know that he's a good goalie, but when you see like other records of other goalies and what they're being paid, I don't see that that it's going to happen. 12 millions is a lot.
Here was my take on Shesty. I was comfortable. If I'm the Rangers, I was comfortable with him at 11. I don't care what other goalies sign. I felt like he has proven both in regular season and playoffs that he's the man. Each contract that gets signed, I am not even sure anymore if I'm comfortable with him at 11. I don't know, honestly. And there is part of me, clearly the goaltenders in hockey have become the running back in football.
Yeah.
Teams are not comfortable playing that big money, even for the best in the game. There are many reasons that can be understood as to why. First of all, goalies playing north of 60 games a season is pretty rare nowadays, when it was the norm like 10 years ago. I'm really starting to question if Shesty's worth 11 even.
And do you feel like maybe Swayman could have gotten a little more?
I feel like Oettinger could have gotten more. To me, the big surprise is the thing. I think Swayman was worth more, but from a negotiations perspective, I understand why he didn't get it. He has yet to play more than 45 games in the season. He has yet to play 50 games in the season.
Yeah.
Linus Ullmark has the Vezina, so he had the argument that he could have gotten more. He is a bit older. He is in his early 30s, and a lot of people question whether he was a product of the Bruins system. Okay. Oettinger has been a number 1 for 2 years. Oettinger has had success in the playoffs. He has not won the Vezina yet. Okay, fine. I felt like Oettinger had more arguments. I felt like Oettinger was going to sign for 9. I thought Oettinger was a $9 million a year goalie, but there is a but. The Dallas Stars, just like the Florida Panthers, just like the Vegas Golden Knights, just like the Tampa Bay Lightning, are in a tax-free state. Did that play a role? I do not know. Let's not go into a big debates about how it has an impact or not. I've heard so many contradicting information on that. Julien Brisebois himself said last summer that he does think that his team has that advantage. Um, but to me now, I do not see how the Rangers go further than 11. I do not.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard for him.
Oh yeah. Now, good luck, Mr. Shesterkin. I'm not even sure it would be a good thing for the Rangers if they give him 12. That I would really question if the window would start closing for them. But as long as they have Artemi Panarin getting 2 points every game, anyway, they're going to be fine. The New York Rangers right now, to me, are the crown of the East. Even better than the Panthers. I really love this team. I've loved this team for a long time. I feel like this is the year. It has to be the year for the New York Rangers. It is a short season. And last thing, Daph, I danced in my apartment this week when Philip Gustafsson scored a goalie goal. The best thing in sport to me, a goalie goal. Philip Gustafsson going to the bench, giving the hand to the rest of the teammate. Congratulations to now being part of the goalie goal scorer. He now wants to be on the power play meeting. Amazing. Beautiful. Love to see it.
And you should have seen also the face of Marc-André Fleury when he did it. It was nice to see. Just like everyone's pretty happy about it. And Markstrom tried to do it last night against
he did? I missed
the
that.
Senators, but Tim Schuze was there to battle the puck.
Beautiful.
Right in the middle of the ice. So
amazing.
I mean, if I was a goalie, I would have tried it.
Well, it's a tricky thing because if you miss badly and it ends up like, I don't know, a turnover or whatever.
Yeah. You need to
anyways.
be careful about it, but they were up like 3-1.
Exactly. When you have a 2-goal lead, that's better. That's easier. Before we let you go this week, let's go in our DMs. Let's see who slid in it this week. Don't forget, you can send us an email at hyperdrivehockey@gmail.com. You can send us a video message. Attach an MP4 to your email and you can ask your question and we will insert it into the podcast. Slide in our DM on social media, ask us a question anywhere and we will read them on Friday's episode. And the first one is coming from Philip from Montreal, who just says, I thought the Nashville Predators were a contender. As simple
Everyone
as that.
had them.
That is hilarious. I had them. I still have them. We talked about it last episode. I still am more worried about the Avalanche than the Predators. Jonathan Marchessault's quote about being too fragile right now, it struck a chord with me. I do not like that. But to me, a team with so many new important pieces will take time. I'm giving them 10 games. 10 games. After that, I'm going to be worried about the Preds.
Preaching patience over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is my motto.
Yeah.
You only live once. That's the motto. Make it what Drake said. Speaking of Drake, Austin from Toronto. Hello, Austin. Thank you for sending us this email. He is saying, I think you went too far when you said that the Jets might be the best team in Canada. That is way too much an overreaction to, yes, the Oilers start of the season, but also the Leafs might be quiet, but they are just as good. And if not for Montembeault in game 1, they have no loss right now. Maybe. I completely agree. I asked the question. I did not say that the Jets were I don't think I did. I said they might be. They might be the best team in Canada. And it was mostly an overreaction to my statement before the season started as to how much I was not as high on them and thought they might not even be a playoff team this year. I think I was completely wrong on that. And honestly, right now, in a best-of-7 series with Connor Hellebuck, I do am confident in the Jets. I'm not saying they are the best team in Canada. You are right. There really is a good argument between them, the Oilers, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Edmonton Oilers went to the Stanley Cup final. They deserve respect. I do like me some Jets right now.
Yeah. And I feel like As you said, it was more of a surprise for the Jets than it was for the Maple Leafs. I mean, expectations are there for the Leafs.
Here's the thing with the Leafs on my side. Nothing matters in this regular season. Nothing, absolutely nothing. The Maple Leafs could win 70 games this year. I don't care. I mean, disrespectfully, my expectations for the Leafs now is nothing less than at the very least an Eastern Conference final. And and I understand that it's a tough assessment because they will likely have to go through two of Tampa, Florida, and Boston to get there. But this is what I'm expecting out of them now.
Do you feel that with Craig Berube behind the bench, they are going to be like maybe a more tough team for those opponents?
I hope so. I hope so. But it's like Santa Claus. I'm going to have to see it to believe it, which is the contrary to Polar Express. You have to believe to see. Well, for me, it's the opposite. I have to see to believe. In the Leafs,
it is down to what they're going to do in the playoffs now.
Exactly.
Nonetheless.
You know, if I'm being in my own, if I'm creating my own counter argument, shouldn't it be the same thing for the Jets, especially Connor Hellebuck? I'm all here lauding Connor Hellebuck, and a lot of people do not want to put Connor Hellebuck in the same sentence as other great goalies from this generation because he hasn't had success so far in his career in the playoffs, which, to be fair, is a fair assessment.
I love when you're doing your counter arguments to yourself. Look at this guy who has been doing radio by himself for the past 4 years, 5 years.
It's because you can say a lot of things about me, but the one thing that is gonna just make me laugh is that you can't call me biased because I'm always out there trying to see all the points myself. Like, well, you could say that, but I would understand somebody who comes. It's like, yeah,
a good devil's advocate.
Exactly. And unfortunately, I am not wearing Prada. Not that I want to wear Prada, but
you're not even wearing a hat today.
Which is rare for people watching on YouTube and might be new.
Very surprising.
When we were off air before going on air, she said, "Wow, you're not wearing a cap." This is very rare.
It's very rare. Was it to prove a point to people that you still have hair down there? Not down there, but up there. And let's just cut this podcast right off.
Absolutely not, Kevin. This stays in the podcast. Oh, that will be it for today. I still have hair up there, and I will absolutely not tell you what is going on down there. Thank you very much for tuning in today. We greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to Hyperdrive Hockey on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. If you could please, on both those platforms, go and leave a 5-star note, that would be greatly appreciated. Follow Game Over Network on YouTube. Have a great hockey weekend, everyone. There are great games involved for all the teams. And we will talk to you, as always, on the next episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. My name is Max Vanout, along Daphne Malbeuf and Kevin Laramie. Talk to you on the next episode of Hyperdrive Hockey. Have a good weekend.